Wesker seems to have a base for a really strong killer, and Reassurance might be a problem with troll survivors. Let's talk about it. Since Wesker is the star of the show, let's start by talking about him. I really think Wesker is a very well designed and very fun killer to play as and against. However, he seems very unpolished in the PTB, so I cannot give my full thoughts on him. Wesker reminds me so much of a balanced Nurse, Blight and Demogorgon combo, as he has 2 dashes that can counter a lot of loops, but not all of them of course. His hitbox is clunky, and it reminds me of PTB Blight, where you got stuck on the simplest of things like a stone or a piece of debris on the side of the wall. In fact, all the time I played him, I wasn't able to glide or surf to any surface. Wesker simply got stuck on all of them. You can see here how I cannot even use my power on this heal. It doesn't work at all, which is a big problem, and this is not the only place where I couldn't use my power at all. I don't know if that's going to be a part of the live game or not, so if he does get the ability to surf or glide through walls depending on the angle you hit them, I think Wesker could become a really strong A tier killer. However, he has almost no slowdown, as his only slowdown is the survivors having to go for the first 8 sprays to remove the infection, and that's it. Also, he has no map pressure, or that's how it feels for me. I am still unsure if it's a good idea to use his power for map traversal, as like I said before, a single thing on your way is capable of stopping the dash, so you have to have a long cooldown later, and you will also have to wait for it to recharge. For that reason, I only use the power to traverse the map if I know precisely where the survivors are located, otherwise I think it's a waste. I also think Wesker is going to be map dependent, more like Blight and Spirit, as he has some loops where both parts of his power are not useful. Now for his Vault power, I kinda find it useful and useless at the same time. I am glad Behavior gave us the option to vault pallets if we wanted to, but I don't see the use in vaulting sometimes. I expected Wesker to be able to continue his second dash after vaulting, but instead it gets cancelled and you enter a cooldown long enough for a survivor to vault it again before you are able to hit them. Of course, the power to vault so fast needed a downside, so I'm not going to complain about that, or else Wesker would become the strongest killer in the game with no counterplay along with Nurse. However, what I find really good is to vault god pallets instead of breaking them, or god windows as well, forcing the survivors to go to another pallet most of the time, especially if you run the perk Dissolution, which I found is actually very strong on him and will be one of the perks I run when he comes live. Now let's talk about add-ons. I didn't find anything special honestly, no add-ons change his playstyle except the Iridescent Photolab, which allows him to break pallets faster than Demogorgon can shred them, so I definitely see that add-on being strong. However, he has some good add-ons, unlike Pyramid Head, it's just that they are nothing crazy. I haven't tried all of them however, and I don't think I will until the live game hits, as Behavior is known to change some add-ons after the release of the PTB. Kinda reminds me of Sadako, where most of her add-ons are not game changing but nice to have, and then there is one Iridescent that makes very strong. Now for his perks, I found out that Superior Anatomy is actually way better than I expected, and Terminus is worse. Superior Anatomy allowed me to make really strong loops become weaker, like the Dead Dog Saloon window or the Shack even. It also seems to work on the vaults of pallets and windows from his power, which I think it's a waste. Superior Anatomy seems really strong with killers like Clown, Myers, Oni, basically all of them that have to chase normally. Awakened Awareness also impressed me a lot, definitely seems interesting to run. It's a nice perk to have, and it can allow him to snowball pretty hard, as you can go straight for the next survivor after hooking another one. So you have 2 survivors of gens at that moment, and you're forcing the third one to come as well. A lot of killers will probably start running this, and those that do end up using it will be very strong, like Nurses with Starstruck for example, which I think is a massive problem with this perk. Finally, we have Terminus. While I do have to say I didn't get the pleasure to play as much with it as I would like to, it's probably the weakest of his perks, but not because of its power, but because the other 2 perks are way better than I expected. I do still think this perk is a counter to those altruistic survivors with friends in the endgame that can guarantee an escape, and this perk can give you a kill. Out of all the perks, Awakened Awareness is the one that I might run a lot. I do want to make a final comment. I made a video showcasing all Wesker animations, and I have to say one thing. His animations are very cool but very clunky. I don't like the generator break and the pallet break, nor the long stun animation where he kneels and does something weird with his hand. I don't get what he's trying to do when he gets flashlight saved or DS'd, and both his pallet animation and Gen 1 is bugged as it plays the sound incorrectly. I hope this is all fixed by the time this hits live. Now let's talk about the two survivors, Ada Wong and Rebecca Chambers. I like them visually, I don't think they are poorly made in design, so that's good. I don't like their voices however, but I guess I will get used to them. Also, they don't seem to talk constantly like Ash whenever you select them. It took me way too long to hear them talk. Now as for the perks, I believe my ranking was spot on. Low profile is so bad I didn't even get the chance to see the effect. I just don't see its use, and I don't like to run a perk that is useless for 90% of the match only to give me a small benefit in the endgame. Reactive healing is bad, it doesn't heal you completely, so either you have a medkit or you're doomed, and subsequent hits are not as good because 35% of the remaining progress, not the 100% of it, means that no matter what, you will never get fully healed. Nobody is going to use this perk. It doesn't combo well with Reassurance even. As for Wiretap, I think it's fine, but again, nobody is going to use it aside from the novelty. It also doesn't combine well with Open-Handed. A lot of generators are placed in spots where Wiretap is useless, and a lot of killers kick generators for the Call of Brine overcharge perks. All of these perks need a buff for any of them to be useful. Rebecca on the other hand is another story. While her two perks, Better Than New and Hyperfocus, are not as good as they could be, I do find them fine. They are perks I would be running sometimes just to spice up my games, as they do have an effect that I notice. Hyperfocus is definitely generator focused, as I cannot seem to get a lot of skill checks while healing, but it's not something game changing or special. There is a video going on where a survivor repairs a gen in 43 seconds with Hyperfocus, but they also run Stakeout, a very good toolbox, and honestly, if you use a build that focuses on making one generator faster, why not run Prove Thyself and that's it. Better Than New gives me a good feeling on my brain when I see the bar progress as yellow, even though it's only 6%. That's it. It only saves 2 seconds of the generator, it's not good at all. Leader beats this perk in almost everything and it's in constant use. Overzealous gives you a 8% gen repair and nobody uses it. 6% is very slow, and also you will lose a lot of time going to a generator unless you're healing next to one. And by that time, why not do the generator instead if you're so worried about gen speeds? Besides, this perk is useless against Plague or Legion in my opinion. Reassurance on the other hand. Wow, this perk is going to be a massive pain. The cooldown starts immediately after you use it, so you can use it 3 times for each hook state. I don't know about you guys, but a full Survive with Friends team running this perk can be extremely brutal. It's definitely the new perk that has the biggest potential to be the new bird time type of perk, especially when the killer is proxy camping or straight up camping. It seems like a band-aid fix for it just to penalize killers for camping. Let's put you in this situation. Imagine you are in the game and you hooked a survivor in the lower floor. A survivor on top can potentially keep giving reassurance to the hooked survivor, and if it's 2 survivors, the hooked survivor can stay there for a long time. What is the killer supposed to do if they want to secure the kill or trade? Nothing. I also find a problem with this perk if a hacker somehow can run it, as they can make it so a survivor is infinitely hooked, or same with a duo of troll friends that want to ruin the match of another survivor. If the killer decided not to do anything about it, it is going to kill camping in low MMR. However, if more and more people start running this, then I definitely see this perk as completely ruining camping, and probably even pay to win, since it's part of a licensed survivor. This perk is definitely going to change the meta in some way, and honestly I think it deserves a nerf, so they make the cooldown start after the perk got its use, instead of letting one survivor chain the perk constantly. I believe that is all from this PTB. I cannot comment on the cosmetics for this DLC, but what I can say is that once this hits the live game, it's going to be a massive pain to get the bloody cosmetics on Wesker, or get the tier 3 of all perks in all survivors and killers. I am definitely focusing on Rebecca first to get reassurance on everyone, because Ada Wong's perks are not that good. Also, don't forget to check my RPD review, where I give my opinion if the rework was good enough or it's still a problem. I would love to hear your opinions. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.